In a rapidly evolving landscape of international relations and economic diplomacy, the tensions between the United States and China continue to dominate headlines. As both nations grapple with a complex trade dispute exacerbated by political undercurrents, a potential conversation between U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping could serve as a pivotal moment for the future of bilateral relations. Reports suggest that this dialogue is anticipated to occur soon, raising hopes for a possible resolution to the long-standing trade friction that has impacted global markets. The backdrop to this anticipated communication is a series of accusations from Trump, who recently claimed that China had violated a temporary agreement made in Geneva aimed at reducing the exorbitant tariffs imposed by both nations. This agreement, intended as a 90-day pause, has proven to be fragile amidst ongoing challenges. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has expressed optimism that the upcoming discussions between the two leaders could help break the current impasse in trade talks, which have been marked by uncertainty and escalating tensions. As the dialogue between Trump and Xi looms on the horizon, recent developments regarding Chinese students in the U.S. add another layer of complexity to the situation. Xi Mingzi, the daughter of President Xi Jinping, has found herself in the spotlight as discussions around visa revocations for Chinese students gain traction in Washington. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has announced plans to aggressively revoke visas for students linked to the Chinese Communist Party or those studying in sensitive fields, prompting a strong response from Beijing. Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Mao Ning condemned the U.S. actions as unreasonable and indicated that China has lodged formal protests against this decision. Born on June 25, 1992, Xi Mingzi is known for her low public profile, having attended Harvard University under a pseudonym to maintain her privacy. Reports indicate that she graduated with a degree in psychology and English in 2014 and has been residing in Massachusetts, where questions about her status in light of U.S. visa policies have emerged. This scrutiny is compounded by her father's position and the ongoing geopolitical tensions between the two countries, making her situation emblematic of broader issues at play. The implications of these developments are manifold. If the Trump-Xi conversation yields constructive outcomes, it could signal a thaw in relations that might translate into more stable trade practices and reduced tariffs, benefiting economies on both sides. Conversely, continued animosity, particularly in the realm of educational exchanges, could further strain bilateral ties and hinder collaborative efforts in crucial areas such as technology and climate change. As the world watches with bated breath, the upcoming talks between Trump and Xi will not only shape the future of U.S.-China relations but also influence global economic dynamics. The interplay of diplomacy, trade, and educational policy remains a critical focal point in this ongoing saga, with the potential for significant repercussions that extend far beyond bilateral relations. The outcome of this dialogue may well set the tone for future interactions between the two leading global powers, making it a pivotal moment in contemporary international affairs. As tensions between the United States and China continue to simmer, the possibility of a pivotal conversation between Presidents Donald Trump and Xi Jinping looms on the horizon. U.S. officials have indicated that this anticipated dialogue could play a crucial role in resolving ongoing disputes over minerals trade that have escalated in recent months. In a recent statement, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent expressed optimism that a phone call between the two leaders could break the current deadlock in trade discussions. "I'm confident that when President Trump and party chairman Xi have a call, that this will be ironed out," Bessent remarked on CBS's Face the Nation. He noted, however, that China has been slow to approve export licenses for essential rare earth minerals, which are critical for the production of high-tech goods like cars and chips. Maybe it's a glitch in the Chinese system. Maybe it's intentional. We'll see after the president speaks with Xi, he added, hinting at the complexities underpinning the trade relationship. This trade dispute has seen the imposition of staggering tariffs, which were temporarily reduced as part of a truce agreed upon in Geneva last month. Trump accused China of violating this agreement, citing delays in the approval of export licenses and other actions that have frustrated U.S. officials. In response, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick stated, "We are taking certain actions to show them what it feels like on the other side of that equation," emphasizing the U.S. administration's determination to hold China accountable. The broader context of these discussions reflects a pattern of escalating protectionism under Trump's administration, which has seen tariffs on numerous imports from various trading partners, particularly China. The tit-for-tat tariff measures had reached unprecedented levels before both nations agreed to a temporary reduction, but the uncertainty surrounding compliance has raised concerns about the stability of this fragile ceasefire. As U.S. officials prepare for what could be a critical week in international relations, the stakes remain high. Kevin Hassett, director of the White House's National Economic Council, hinted that the Trump-Xi conversation could occur as soon as this week, although no formal schedule has been confirmed. The outcome of this dialogue may not only determine the future of U.S.-China trade relations but could also shape global economic trends significantly. In parallel, developments in China hint at a potential shift in political dynamics that could further influence these negotiations. Reports suggest that President Xi Jinping's grip on power may be weakening, with internal factions within the Chinese Communist Party reportedly pushing for a change in leadership. Observers have noted rising tensions and a resurgence of the Communist Youth League faction, traditionally opposed to Xi's consolidation of power. As Xi's authority seems to diminish, the implications for U.S.-China relations could become even more complex. Looking ahead, the upcoming conversation between Trump and Xi could serve as a pivotal moment in the ongoing trade saga, potentially easing tensions and paving the way for a more stable economic relationship. However, the intertwining of trade disputes with the evolving political landscape in China adds layers of unpredictability, underlining the importance of this dialogue in shaping not just bilateral relations but also global economic stability. As both nations navigate these choppy waters, the world watches closely, awaiting the outcomes of their next moves. As global trade tensions continue to simmer, the spotlight is once again on the complex relationship between the United States and China. This week, President Donald Trump is set to engage in a critical dialogue with Chinese President Xi Jinping, a conversation that U.S. officials hope could yield a breakthrough in the stalled trade negotiations that have characterized their interactions. Despite a recent temporary détente which saw both nations agree to pause the imposition of further tariffs, the situation remains fraught with challenges. Recent comments from Trump underscore the precarious nature of this relationship. In a public address, the president expressed frustration over what he perceives as China's failure to adhere to the terms of their trade agreement, stating, "The bad news is that China, perhaps not surprisingly to some, has totally violated its agreement with U.S." This sentiment was echoed in various media reports indicating that China is reportedly delaying the issuance of export licenses for rare earth elements critical to U.S. industries, including automotive and semiconductor manufacturing. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent expressed optimism on CBS's Face the Nation, suggesting that the remaining gaps in negotiations could soon be bridged. He emphasized the importance of the upcoming call between Trump and Xi, saying, "I'm confident that when President Trump and party chairman Xi have a call, this will be ironed out." However, he acknowledged that the situation is complicated by China's alleged non-compliance with previously agreed-upon terms. The backdrop of these discussions is a rapidly evolving economic landscape in China, where President Xi Jinping faces mounting pressure to shift the country's economic strategy away from its heavy reliance on exports. Chinese economists have long warned that this dependency is unsustainable, particularly as the country grapples with deflation and a declining birth rate stemming from decades of strict population control policies. Yet she remains resistant to implementing the kind of fiscal stimulus that could bolster domestic consumption, fearing it may foster a culture of dependency. As tensions escalate, Trump has announced plans to double tariffs on steel imports to 50%, citing the need to protect American jobs and industries from foreign competition. This move has drawn sharp criticism from European leaders, who have indicated that they would retaliate if necessary. Trump's administration has positioned these tariffs as vital for national security, claiming that reliance on foreign steel could hinder the U.S. military's preparedness. The trade landscape is further complicated by ongoing legal challenges to Trump's tariff policies. A recent ruling by a U.S. court deemed many of his tariffs unlawful, leading to uncertainty about their future. Despite this, the administration is poised to appeal the decision, and Trump remains steadfast in his commitment to maintaining these trade measures, asserting tariffs are not going away. The ripple effects of these policies are being felt across various sectors. Companies like ELF Beauty and Gap have reported significant challenges due to tariff-related costs, prompting them to reconsider their supply chains. Meanwhile, U.S. markets have reacted with volatility, reflecting investor uncertainty regarding the future of trade relations between the superpowers. As Trump prepares for his call with Xi, the outcomes of their discussions could have far-reaching implications not just for U.S.-China relations but for the global economy at large. Analysts are watching closely as any signs of progress or further entrenchment in positions could shape market sentiment and influence international trade dynamics for months to come. In conclusion, the upcoming dialogue between Trump and Xi is pivotal not only in addressing immediate trade concerns but also in determining the broader trajectory of economic relations between the two nations. As both leaders navigate this complex landscape, the stakes are high and the potential for both conflict and cooperation remains. The world will be watching, hoping for a resolution that could ease tensions and foster a more stable global trading environment. In a significant escalation of tensions surrounding national security and international relations, British businessman John Miller has been indicted by U.S. authorities on serious charges, including attempting to smuggle sensitive military technology to China. Miller, 63, was apprehended in Serbia, where he is currently facing extradition alongside Chinese national Cui Guanhai, 43. The allegations against them, stemming from an FBI investigation, include conspiracy to commit interstate stalking, smuggling, and violations of the Arms Export Control Act, which governs the export of military and defense-related technologies. The indictment, disclosed over the weekend, accuses Miller and Cui of conspiring to illicitly procure U.S. defense articles, notably encryption technology, missiles, air defense systems, and drones, for export to the Chinese government. Court documents reveal that they allegedly discussed methods to conceal a cryptographic device within common household items such as a blender to evade detection during shipment. They reportedly paid a $10,000 deposit for the device through a courier service and a wire transfer to a U.S. bank account, underscoring the calculated nature of their operations. U.S. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche described the defendants' actions as a blatant assault on both our national security and our democratic values, promising that the Justice Department would take decisive action against foreign infiltration of U.S. defense systems. The FBI's Deputy Director Dan Bongino echoed these sentiments, emphasizing the seriousness of the defendants' attempts to suppress free speech by targeting an individual who had publicly criticized Chinese President Xi Jinping. Moreover, the indictment details a disturbing subplot. Miller and Cui allegedly conspired to intimidate a U.S. resident who had planned to protest President Xi's appearance at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation APEC Summit in Los Angeles in November 2023. They reportedly coordinated a campaign that included surveillance and vandalism aimed at silencing the critic. This aspect of the case highlights not only the alleged smuggling operation but also the lengths to which the defendants purportedly went to suppress dissent against the Chinese government, showcasing a troubling intersection of espionage and intimidation. If convicted, Miller and Cui could face severe penalties, with the most serious charges carrying potential sentences of 20 years for violations of the Arms Export Control Act, alongside additional years for conspiracy and stalking. The U.S. Department of Justice is currently coordinating with Serbian authorities for their extradition, which underscores the international dimensions of this case. As this situation unfolds, it raises critical questions about the motivations behind such actions and the implications for U.S.-China relations. The case not only reflects ongoing concerns about technology transfer and espionage but also illustrates the broader geopolitical tensions at play, particularly as nations grapple with issues of security and sovereignty. With the global landscape continually shifting, the ramifications of this indictment could resonate far beyond the courtroom, influencing diplomatic dialogues and national security policies in both the US and China. As the world watches, it remains to be seen how this incident will affect international relations moving forward, particularly in the context of heightened scrutiny around Chinese influence in the West and the ongoing geopolitical rivalry between the US and China. The charged atmosphere suggests that both nations may need to navigate these complex issues with care, balancing national interests against the backdrop of a rapidly evolving global stage. In a poignant moment that echoes through the halls of academia and international relations, Yurong Jiang, a Chinese student at Harvard University, delivered a stirring graduation speech that has gained significant traction on social media platforms in both the United States and China. Jiang made history as the first Chinese woman selected to speak at a Harvard graduation ceremony, and her remarks emphasizing the need for shared humanity and global unity have resonated deeply amid escalating tensions between the two nations. Jiang's address came on the same day a federal judge blocked a Department of Homeland Security directive aimed at limiting the enrollment of international students at prestigious institutions like Harvard. This legal victory was overshadowed by the Trump administration's newly announced policy to aggressively revoke student visas for Chinese nationals, particularly those with ties to the Chinese Communist Party or pursuing studies in strategic fields. The announcement has reignited fears of espionage and national security threats associated with Chinese students, a narrative that has fueled the ongoing deterioration of US-China relations. The backdrop of Jiang's speech and the visa crackdown reflects a critical juncture in US-China diplomacy, where educational exchanges are increasingly viewed through the lens of security concerns. The move to revoke visas is a clear indication of the growing mistrust between the two countries, noted an expert on international relations. It highlights the precarious position of Chinese students in the US, who are often caught in the crossfire of geopolitical tensions. Jiang's heartfelt call for understanding and collaboration serves as a counter-narrative to the escalating hostilities. Her words struck a chord particularly among younger audiences on social media, as they grapple with the implications of a future defined by division. It's essential that we remember our shared humanity, Jiang stated during her speech, a sentiment that has sparked conversations about the role of education in fostering international cooperation. As the Trump administration continues to adopt a hardline stance, the implications for Chinese students and the broader academic landscape are profound. Recent data indicates a decline in the number of Chinese students applying to U.S. universities, with many citing fears of discrimination and the uncertainties surrounding visa policies. This trend could have lasting effects on the cultural exchange and innovation that have historically flourished in American higher education. In the wake of Jiang's speech, observers are left pondering the potential for future dialogue. The Biden administration has yet to articulate a comprehensive strategy for US-China relations, leaving many to speculate whether a shift toward more constructive engagement is on the horizon. As Jiang's message of unity reverberates, it raises critical questions about how nations can navigate their differences while fostering an environment conducive to mutual understanding. Looking ahead, developments in US-China relations will likely remain a focal point for policymakers and educators alike. The fate of international students hangs in the balance, as does the future of academic collaboration that has enriched both countries for decades. Jiang's call for a shared humanity may serve as a guiding principle for a new generation of leaders who will need to address these complex challenges with empathy and foresight. As the world watches closely, the outcome of this evolving narrative will undoubtedly shape the global landscape for years to come.